What is going on, my no bullshit family? How are y'all guys doing this evening? Yeah, I'm back, baby. I just want to say I want to appreciate each and every one of you guys for supporting your boy. The numbers have gone up. That's a good thing. Want to give a shout out to the BTCC Black True Crime Collective that is composed of Melanin Mysteries. Yeah, Melanin Mysteries. Not my brother's Keeper, that is hosted by my boy Antoine, aka King Arthur. Not to mention too, another shout out to my girl Renee Davis, who got the same last name I got. Happy belated 50th, and I'm glad you enjoyed yourself, which is part of Melanin Mayhem. And last but not least, the infamous ones. I love talking to this lady. She's always a joy. She keeps it real with all her content. Check these guys out, man. No, they're not paying anything to me or for me. They always promote my stuff freely. I never have to ask. Anytime I put anything on Instagram, they will share it immediately. So I'm just paying it forward. Check these black true crime stuff out. Very good people. Very straightforward. Never change. Also, another shout out to Hot Garbage, aka Trash Pandas fans. I appreciate the host over there, Buddha Badass, her name, but she knows that I'm a fan of there. I always talk to them often. Anyway, enough with me talking about all the fans of the other podcasts. I know y'all want to know what has been happening to me. I have been working my butt off, trying to catch up on a little bit of the debt I have had. I want to thank a couple of people that are been in my arena that have um, sent me donations and helped me out during my transitioning of my new job. I'm trying to pay that back forward. So for all of you that have done that, I appreciate you, and the ones that have done it, and I promise you, I will take care of you. I am honoring that promise. It is coming as soon as I get things straight out. That's what I try to do, because I don't want no one to ever think that I'm leeching or you're invested in something that you are not going to be able to get. So a lot of my true crime this month is probably going to be more leaning towards a lot of black crime, because that's all I have been running across that has been really eye catching lately. Um, I'm not trying to get in one particular genre. Y'all know I love all crime stories. I do all crime things of that nature. But right now, it's just the stories I'm getting that I am trying to make sure that you guys get it, if you get what I'm saying. So, um, so with that being said, today's story is very, very tragic. How can I say this? Imagine you found the perfect mate. They check all the boxes, right? The person that you want in your life, spiritually grounded, very loving, motivated, just everything that you could actually dream of. But come to find out that your mate is getting tired of you. They are starting to get annoyed with you, and to the point that they just don't want to just leave you, but they want to get rid of you and try to profit off the fruits of your demise. In this case, this is what happened in the story of Euri Jenkins and his wife, Makava Jenkins. See, Makava thought that Euri was everything that she could possibly dream of. But Euri was a sneaky little bastard. He had some secrets of his own. And the secrets that he had, he was going to make sure that it was going to be something that Makava family and her would never forget. kids. So I'm gonna go ahead on here and give y'all the skippy of who this guy is. But before we do that, we need to talk about the victim. Always about the victim. Because the victim in this story is very important. So, with that being stated, I am going to talk about the the lovely Makava uh, Jenkins. Now, Makava has not always been a Jenkins. Okay, and Makava was born. She was born into a little town in Palm Beach County called Belle Glade. Now, let me give y'all a little rundown about Belle Glade because I think it's always important now for us to talk about where the hell these towns is at and what they're about, besides the major big cities. Now, Belle Glade, Florida is approximately, the last time they checked on the U.S. Census, had about 16,690. Now, it used to be called the Muck City because of the type of muck, for the quality of muck. Now, muck is like a sapric soil that is waterlogged and is used to grow sugarcane. So this particular area was known for the sugarcane. Now, when it started getting towards the mid 1980s, this city took a whole lot of hits. Okay, and this is the Miami metropolitan area of South Florida. So it's right above Miami, northern of Miami, actually. Now, let's talk about what it has experienced. Now, during that time, was in the 1980s, it had the highest rate of AIDS. It's talking about it had 37 cases in population of every night of roughly 19,000. So that was like crazy back then. Y'all know, and AIDS was just before they found the way to make it dormant. You can live with it, especially with the HIV virus that turns into AIDS. People treated AIDS like it was the COVID. Okay, like no sir, don't touch me. You got that? We're good. Absolutely, I'm dying slowly. I don't trust you. Then in 2003, it had another hit. FBI like, yo, out of all these small towns, this thing got the highest crime rate over here in Belle Glade, like 290 people doing all these crimes per 10,000 residents, which is pretty high for a residential area. And they were mostly men that were between 18 and 25. Now, y'all got to remember the Belle Glade was also founded when the Florida land bloom of the 1920s. That's when people were coming all over the place to go ahead on and start building land over there in Florida. And back then they was doing 50-foot lots in the 1920s for $745, which in today's terms, let me do a calculator. Me get this. All right. So we're talking about 1920. Land was going at $5, which was back then, which is in today's money about $12,000 for a plot of land. So that's just how crazy it was. So imagine that, 12,000 for a plot of land. Somebody come to you, hey man, 12,000. You'd be like, yo, what? 12,000? All right, bet. So that's how it was. Now, also, please believe that this is a predominantly black city out here. So there's hardly not that many white folks there. It is 56.49% black. And the next amount of people of race of 2020 that it has had is Hispanic or Latino, which is 34.75%. And the minority is the white folks of 6.53%. Now, y'all got to also remember too that Belle Glade is not a very high level place to work because after the sugarcane economy fell a little bit, people started wanting to use these machines to replace these cane croppers. So now they have to rely on other jobs outside of the town. So basically, it's one of those situations where they had no other choice but to find work outside, unless you worked at the post office. Then they used to have a big employer called the Glades Correction Institution. Now, Glades Correction Institution was built in 1932. It had about 350 people. It held about 918 inmates, but it wound up getting shut down. So when it got shut down, now you got more people with no work. So it just became how can I put this? An absolute nightmare for these people to survive out here. It really is sad but true. Now, since I told you about Belle Glade, let's continue about how Makava was seen and adored by people that knew her. Now, Makava had a lot of people follow her on social media because of her way of being an entrepreneur and an influencer. But people just said that when you talked to her, she made you feel like she was your best friend and knew you all her life. Now, her grandmother is the one that raised her. Grandmother was named Gloria Harold. Now, Makava was a Harold before she became a Jenkins. Now, they do not talk about who her parents is. They do say something about her mother, which they affectionately call West, but I could not find any information about her mother's real name. Now, as she began to grow up and get older, people really saw that she had a shining light and a great personality. In high school, she was elected to homecoming queen, which is a big deal, you know. And not too many black women in areas that are ran by I would say suburban type of people get the elected homecoming queens. Kind of hard, kind of difficult, but that is a good compliment. That's a good achievement. Then after that, she decided to go to the University of South Florida, and she started studying to be a career in business. But as she's trying to build her dream and try to get a education and stuff on, you know, she had life challenges, right? But she had her first child as a young mother. But still in college, having her first child, she was like, that ain't gonna stop me. I'm gonna finish what I started. So she would finish college, she's coming back home and working, and still like an old machine. She just uh, mentoring people. She is showing people how to get it done, to be your own boss. And then she wound up going on to business school and got her master's degree, and just very brilliant. So now it's 2009, right? And I want to say that Makava is also very wrapped up in the church. She is very strong in her faith. And she has been praying to the good man upstairs that she wanted a man that was everything that you could actually ask for, to love and protect. Well, that man she met was Euri Jenkins. Now, his father was a local Baptist minister, and let's just say that she was mesmerized by this young, handsome young man, the pastor's son. You know what they say about us PK kids? We are off the chain. Yes, we are. Believe me, my mother is a minister, and I know I'm definitely off the chain. So I can imagine how this joker gonna be. So they start making plans for the future. You know, kids, successful careers, and that home life that Makava always wished for herself. You know, where she didn't have to work so hard and worry about who is taking care of the kids, who is going to hold her and rub her back when she go to sleep at night, right? But along the way, they had a lot of hardships. Okay. Hold on, y'all. Hold on for once. So, as I was saying, as I have gotten back to sleep, like I never left, they went through a lot of hardships, right? So, um, they had to be faced with unemployment, homelessness, and then Euri went out here and slang that PK penis, and it resulted into another woman having his child. But she loved him and the child still. She was still focused on her marriage. But after they got past that, when they got married, it seemed as though they were overcoming those challenges. I mean, that should just tell you how much Makava really believed in the power of love with Euri. But see, despite all them challenges, she was determined to make things work because she maintained a full-time job at a local agency. And in addition to that, she had a little business on the side that she would do to make ends meet. And like everybody said, she was everybody's auntie, everybody's sister, everybody's cousin. She was just so dependent. And people was impressed by how she was just making it look easy when it came to success. So on the outside looking in, you would think that that's it. Makava has achieved a goal. Let's keep it, let's keep where we at and maintain it. Makava wanted more. Because, see, she was deeply and passionate about empowering others. Because she would post on her social media to encourage her followers to pursue their own financial and entrepreneur dreams. Her popular posts even reached those in the Palm Beach prosecutor's office. And not to mention, too, she would do podcasts. She'd get on Facebook. She would do these inspirational moments. Kind of told a story how she was homeless at one point and how she is now had a nice home, making enough money to take care of her children. And she just was not afraid to try a new business and do what she had to do within legal reason to have a better life for her children, her 3 children. So, and coming from a community where there is not that much opportunity, you got the main source of income for the whole town, like sugarcane farming, has knocked off like damn near 50% of the workload by using a machine to process and take down the sugarcane. People become like hopeless, like, well, I got to travel out of town just to live in my small town. So that's why on the morning of June 28, 2017, hundreds of her followers had tuned into her latest post on Facebook, where she wrote the following message. And this is what I'm quoting on this message. It says, "I'm in awe of how far I've come." Here are some of her words. "I've always written business plans for like my family and friends, but I didn't do it as a company. I was still trying to figure out what my niche was and what I wanted to do. It's not like it's used to be in the past when men are the sole providers. Women get out there and hustle. They do the work and they kind of meet each other in the middle. At least that's what me and my husband do." Makava went on to describe how she had gone from being homeless in 2014 to making over 6 figures. It was a message of inspiration and hope to thousands of women just like herself. I mean, she really cared about people. She had the experience that she had where she came from, literally nothing, to where she was. But while everybody is praising this woman's goals and what she achieved, in the early morning hours of June 29th, everything has been taken away. Because, see, a 911 call was received by Palm Beach County Sheriff Office. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, the caller was Makava's brother, Quavius. Marquavius, who everyone called Quay, told dispatchers that someone had broken into the house he shared with his sister and her husband, and that his sister Makava had been shot First responders rushed into the home. This is in Bolton Beach, and found Makava in her bed, bleeding from a single gunshot wound to the head. They didn't pronounce her at the scene. They felt a very, 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 very faint pulse. And so she was transported to a trauma hospital. And it wasn't until she was at the hospital when they tried to revive her that they ultimately pronounced her dead at the hospital. 33-year-old Makava Jenkins, mother of 3. I want y'all to get this, hear what I'm saying. A mother of 3 was no longer with us. You know, that's the most heartbreaking thing, to get that kind of situation going where you got to tell somebody. And I want y'all to understand here, this is the beautiful Makava. Makava was a beautiful soul, very, very beautiful soul. And this one here hurts. So, with minutes of her death in 2017, emergency personnel and investigators from the Palm Beach County Sheriff Office rushed to the home of Makava and Euri Jenkins. Now, prosecutors Adrian Ellis was a first-hand witness to the events of the tragic and chaotic moment. And she lived in the same neighborhood that this young lady was living in. And she was like, well, what is this? She being a prosecutor, this is a good community. We don't have no type of violence in this type of community, in this neighborhood. And I'm quite sure this really unnerved her. Now, this little girl had a 2-story home. It had a pool and an outdoor patio. The kids had their own room. It was a nice family home. As the sun was coming up, investigators hurried to get statements from other adults that was present in the house at the time of the attack. Makava's brother, Quay, her husband, Euri, and Euri's friend, Dimitri Dale. Over the next year, Alexia Cox will commit to her own memory that description of the events to do that night when the police were called. And what we learned is that Makava Jenkins had come home earlier that day from just having a busy day, and she had went up to her room and gone to sleep. Now, her 2 younger children were sound asleep, her son in the bed upstairs and the baby in a playpen in the living room. Now, Quay explained that the 3 men were all in the garage, which was Makava's encouragement. Euri had turned into a home barbershop. It was after midnight when Euri had offered to cut Quay's hair. Shortly after he's in the chair and he getting his hair cut, that is when the government entered the garage. Quay described the gunman as dark-skinned male wearing all black clothes and a mask that covered his face. Quay said he thought it was a joke at first because he just figured like, oh, maybe it's one of your friends or Dimitri's friends that's coming over to joke around with us. The gunman came over to him and he said, snatched the barber cape off him and was like, you know, you think I'm playing. And then he made him get out of the chair and get down. That's when he realized it was serious. As Alexa tells it, the 3 men's description of what happened next was consistent. The masked gunman, ordered all 3 being into the home and immediately forced them upstairs to where Makava was sleeping. Dimitri Dale, who is the friend, who is one of Jenkins' best friends, he then asks or suggests that someone take the son downstairs because there's a child up here. Can I take him downstairs? And I'll let him know. The intruder says okay and allows Demetrius Dale to take the child, who was asleep downstairs. The gunman then forces Makava's husband and brother to lie on the floor. Here's a portion of a taped interview with Makava's husband, Euri, as he walks police through those terrifying moments. He went home. I mean, the terrifying moments in his home. So I don't know why I said it. And I don't have the recorder on me, but I want to repeat what he said. Man, Quay was still on the ground. We didn't know what to do about it. We was on the ground. Quay wanted to jump the guy. I was afraid. I just said, man, listen, if you got something, don't shoot nobody in the house. Moments later, a gunshot rang through the house. After demanding car keys, the gunman then fled the home and drove away in Dimitri like she was trying to breathe. Okay, so here's my thing. I mean, this already sounds suspect, but I'm gonna get into this further so in a little bit. But I want y'all to think about what's being said. They shoot Makava, leave all them down and distraught, and dash out. McKay was still clinging to life, but the wound on her head was severe. It was one gunshot wound to the head. She was laying on her back, left side, and the gunshot would enter the right temple. Close range shot could only have been intended to kill. It was later discovered by doctors that Makava was pregnant at the time of her murder, which means the killer had forever taken not just one life, but two. Back at the Palm Beach County State Attorney's Office, Adrian and Alexa were learning the tragic news. So Alexa's like pulled Adrian to the side on that worked in the investigation and said, "Hey, so this happened. McKee was a victim of a homicide." And I said, "That must have been what I saw as I was leaving this." Adrian and I both have young sisters, so I think you know that what we saw in Makava was a young woman who, you know, was a go-getter. She was loved by her family. She had children. And I think there was a piece of ourselves or people that we love that we saw in her. And it really made us want to work more than ever, more hard to make sure that our family got justice they deserve with a community in shock. They both knew the responsibility they bore, along with law enforcement, to try to solve this heartbreaking crime. And as always the case, the long road to justice would start right at Makava's house, where the search for any physical evidence that could help identify her killers began. While the government was only in the house a matter of minutes, the hope was some evidence might have been left behind. A case, a bullet fragment, or they got lucky, even the gun itself. And the only evidence of the gun would be from Makava's injuries. Now, the autopsy showed that, like I said, this was a close range shooting. There was stippling, everything that would confirm that it was a close range. Typically, in a shooting that takes place in a closed space, a contained environment, investigators are optimistic about finding critical forensic evidence. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case here. We did not find a casing. Obviously, that led us to believe that it was a revolver that was used, but there was an exit wound, and we didn't find the projectile either. We looked and looked, and the crime scene was there for hours, looking for that projectile and could not find the projectile, which means that law enforcement were left with little to go on as far as the weapon used. And the rest of the house really didn't offer up many clues either. The gunman entered through the open garage door, so there was no signs of forced entry. And more importantly, there were no fingerprints. But investigators didn't have something even better. They have eyewitnesses, three men, Quay, Euri, and Dimitri, who were all present for the entire harrowing ordeal. And while none of them could possibly ID the mass murder, the obvious next step for investigators was to ask them who in the world would ever want Makava Jenkins dead. And it's Quay who offered the first possibility that the home invasion may have actually been a tragic case of its mistaken identity. And the intruder who came into the home was asking for what? All right, so we're going to stop here. We're going to make this a two-parter. And maybe multiple parts of this story here because there's a lot to unpack. I do have to say this about some things I have about this case so far. Euri bro wanted to get the jump on these guys. And I think that Quavius, yeah, Marquavius, aka Quay, probably could have overtook those guys to save his sister's life. But what I felt like that made this guy suspect is when he's hearing it from his brother-in-law and he wants to take his sweet behind and not do anything. You know, that to me offered red flags to me as a husband. I know if I got my kids upstairs, my brother-in-law's like, yo, we need to jump on him before it gets too late. I would have done something, or I would have at least told them, hey, listen, if something goes wrong, when y'all gonna have to play like y'all got knocked out cold. But that's all I got for you guys this evening. Please do me a favor, support the True Crime Cash App. Y'all know you can't make this BS up on Cash App. You can also send them my Venmo, which is down in the description, and all this other good stuff as well. Again, continue to support the channel, share, like, subscribe. On part 2, we're going to start talking about the strange behavior of Euri Jenkins when it comes to his wife, Ms. Makava Jenkins, and also how a lot of people that claim they had his back is now folding like it is the last supper. That being said, y'all know what it is. I am out.